Hello, welcome to the Everything is Black and White podcast. Angie Musgrove here. Hope you guys are all doing well. Do hit thumbs up, do hit subscribe on YouTube, do leave us a rating and review if you're listening on the audio only platform. Your support, as always, is greatly appreciated, as is that of NordVPN and Crown Trade, as sponsors of this show, bringing you an additional episode this week, once again on the topic of Newcastle United's badge and the update to it that will come over the next year. This episode, I'm going to invite Aston Villa fan and podcaster onto the show to share insight into his journey as a fan of a club who has changed their badge not just once but twice in recent years, and get a bit of insight into how he felt about the fan consultation period and just seeing the badge change in general. So Dan will pop on in a moment to provide that insight. But first, we have to talk about this consultation workshop that was held on Wednesday night up at St James's Park in person and online. Fans were invited along, and the club explained their reasoning and their process behind changing the badge. And it was said to be quite a well-worked presentation that was shown. It was a bit humorous as well as serious because this is a big, big thing to do. They reaffirmed their reasoning behind it. Obviously, as we know with the original statements, complaints that the current design is a bit intricate, hard to replicate, etc., etc. One thing that did come out of this meeting, and at this time of recording, there's been no official release of any minutes or agenda from that meeting that may or may not come out, but there have been word from people who were there, certain influencers on TikTok and certain people on Twitter just sharing their experience, and I've spoken to a couple as well. The big news is that the club crest will not be a circle, which blows my theory straight out of the water, because I thought it would be similar to the early 80s badge, or I think it was 76 to 83. That design, I thought that's what they would go for. Nice circle design and job done. But it appears from what was said at this consultation that the club are going to stay away from a circle design, which actually, when you look on social media, some of the fan accounts who have been designing their versions of a circular Newcastle United crest, they've done pretty well. Some of them look really, really nice, but it looks like that's not going to happen. That leads you down to the path of what will it look like. Now, remember, the club said minimal, they said refine and revive. In my head, I was like, how can you do that? How can you do that in a circle? Not being a circle probably makes sense if they're going to do that and stick to it. Interestingly, and this is interesting, now there was a leaked image of a proposed badge, proposed crest, leaked to Newcastle World, colleagues down the road. This is it on the screen. Just going to describe it to you guys listening. Very similar to the current day badge. 2 seahorses either side of a black and white shield. The castle's there. The line on top holding the flag, and the banner Newcastle United. Very, very similar. To me, doesn't look right. Doesn't look right at all. Doesn't look great. The banner underneath the shield looks a lot more complicated and intricate than the one they've currently got. The seahorses look a little bit chunkier. It just does not look great to me. Now, important to stress to those who were in the room at the workshop, they were told that this is one of the designs which has been played around with. It's not top of the list. It's not a finished draft. So don't get over the top when you see this. It's one of the designs that are being talked about, perhaps. I'm sure when the club release their options, which they probably will do in the coming months, that this or a version of this might be on that list, but it'll be alongside 2, 3, 4 others. And I would also say that given the feedback on this crest, I can't see the club going anywhere near it, to be honest, because the feedback has been overwhelmingly negative, and I can understand why. It is not a very nice design at all, in my humble opinion. And it seems like everyone who has seen it, or the majority of people who have seen it, especially fans on social media, not always a great barometer, but a lot of people do not like this. Maybe it would look better in person, but yes, the club confirming that this is one of the designs that have been played around with at the moment. Let us know your thoughts on that. But time to introduce Dan to the show. Dan, how are you doing? You well?
I'm good, mate. Yeah, that crest isn't great, is it? That one you just showed up on screen for those watching on YouTube. It's when I saw it, I assumed, oh, that must not be real. It's pretty poor, that one.
Yeah, it's not great at all. For those who don't know, Dan hosts the Clout and Blue podcast, which is an Aston Villa show for the Birmingham Mail, Birmingham Live. So a colleague of mine down in the Midlands, regular face on the podcast, and he's kindly spared half an hour today to come on and talk about what the New York Times described, Dan, as a debacle when it came to Aston Villa changing their badge twice in as many years. I guess we really have to start with those badge changes before we maybe look a little bit further back in time. So it went from a shield, which is probably the one everyone knew, to a circular badge, which lasted a year, and then it went back to a shield.
Yeah. Well, I've done some prep, mate. I've done some prep for your podcast. For those that are watching, I've got some shirts in front of me that have the various badges on them. So the one that you're referring to that everyone will probably know is this one. We call it the Randy Lerner badge. It was changed in 2006-ish, 2007, off the top of my head. And that was the badge that you will see on top of the stadium. However, actually, if I get a shirt from a little bit older, this is what that one was. It's basically the same, but it has the word prepared underneath. Now, Villa went through their own kind of crest consultation period when they were relegated in 2016, that they were going to make some tweaks to the badge. One of those being, we're going to remove the word prepared, which kind of felt pretty apt after we just got 17 points, that we weren't very prepared whatsoever. And I think they made the spacing on the letters slightly different. So it's, for those that are watching, those that are listening, apologies. For those that are watching, they're basically the same. Just this one was a bit more, slightly more modern looking. I think the font is ever so slightly different, a bit more bold.
I think there's a colour change as well from what I was reading.
Very slightly,
on the Learner one, there's a bit of a colour change. But it did strike me as bizarre that the biggest change is just the removal of prepared.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know loads about ancient Villa history, but that has been a kind of motto that's been associated with the club for a while. Like there's badges that predate these ones that will have prepared underneath in like a kind of like a scroll, if you like. So it's definitely a word that is associated with Villa. But again, having it on a badge, I wouldn't be particularly precious over that. I will caveat everything that we're talking about here, by the way. I do not want to come across onto this podcast about telling Newcastle fans how to feel about changing the badge. Yours is different to ours, that you've had that one that you're wearing now for a much longer period. That in just my lifetime, the one I grew up with was this one with the stripes on. I don't know whether you remember this one. That had prepared on as well. Aston Villa, big gold shield with the claret and blue vertical stripes. This is the one I grew up with. But when it changed to the Learner badge in 2006, I didn't really feel like, oh no, we're changing it, we shouldn't do it, because Villa had already had maybe 3 or 4 badges since the 80s in different shapes and sizes. So I maybe don't feel as tied to one particular badge as maybe you do. Is that fair?
Yeah, I think that's fair. And I think that's the argument I keep putting out there, is that there's been such a negative reaction by quite a large proportion of fans of a certain generation, because it's all they've ever known. That badge has been on Newcastle United shirts, Newcastle United training gear, 37 years. So it is going to be hard to say goodbye to something. From my point of view, change can be good. I'm going to put my trust in the hands of those making these decisions, although I can understand why there is a little bit of upset, and your reasoning there makes sense as well.
If we just go back to the relegation badge, if we call it that, what we had in the Championship, when we had the Luke Roper shirts, the year that we came up, the badge was like rubberized, and that's what this one is. And this is when we were back in the Premier League. This shirt in Kappa, which the quality wasn't great, but they kept with the rubber badge, and this kind of added a little bit more detail to it. So it's kind of got, I don't think you'll be able to see it on camera. No, you won't. It's kind of got like grooves of the line, like there's detail on there. So what was a bit, quite an average badge, the way it was done on the shirt all of a sudden made me feel like, oh, this is actually nice. This is like good quality. So I actually really like this one, even though I didn't grow up with it. We had it for, I don't know, 2016 to the debacle of 2022, 23-ish. So not too long, but we got promoted with this badge. We stayed up with this badge. Like it's nice. Like to me, this is what I kind of associate with Villa. Similar to the one that I grew up with. the process around Villa changing their badge in, I don't know the year off the top of my head, I think it was 2022, was bizarre. It was odd. I did go through some of Villa's kind of club statements earlier. If anyone who can do this, if they can be bothered, if you go to Villa's website and search Club Crest, there's loads of stories like Villa issue Club Crest update, and it's walls and walls of text of them consulting with the FCG, which is, I think they now call it the FAB, the fan advisory board, the fan consultation groups, all these people, which effectively is a group of 15 people in a room. This affects thousands, right? Hundreds of thousands. How many fans are out there? It shouldn't be down to 15 lucky people getting to see these badges before anybody else and making decisions on everyone else's behalf. So this process is already flawed because everyone feels like, well, I want my say to mean something. So Villa did a survey at one stage. Now the surveys are interesting because Villa want to change the badge. So they're basically, the first point is they're telling you what's wrong with the old one. Can't be replicated onto some digital platforms, doesn't look good if you condense it into a small size, maybe doesn't come across well when it's embroidered, all these different things that you kind of feel like, okay, well, I kind of get it. But they're already telling you, well, we're changing it anyway, and these are the reasons why. So now we want you to help us make the new one. So kind of clinging on to don't change it is rare. Like, they're going to change it. So they tell you what's wrong with it, why are we doing this, how can fans input it. And they ran a survey, which basically I tried to take part in it again, but when you click on it, it's like, this survey is closed, which is, it's a few years ago. But the questions were things like, off the top of my head, should it say Aston Villa FC? Should it say AVFC? Should the European Cup star be on there? Should it say prepared or not? What colour should the lion be? What shape would you like? And it was all kind of personal preference. The problem is with these kind of things, it's, what's that saying about if you design a camel by committee, you get a horse or something? Or the other way around. It's the other way around, isn't it? If you design a horse by committee, you get a camel. There's so much input that if you and me are Villa fans and I like the round badge from 1982 when we won the European Cup, but you hate it, well, what does the club do there? Like, you can't take everybody's opinion into it and come out with something that everybody likes. So it's a difficult process. However, Villa then published the results of this survey, and if I can find the right tab, they say that 21,500 fans took part in this vote, 77% of which voted for a round design. Now, they took all of this information and go back to these consultation boards and whatnot, and they show this board some designs to choose from. Now, I don't know what the original number was and how many it was whittled down from, but fans were presented with 2 badges to vote against on the 4th of November 2022. So they took all this research. They were going into the club's 150th anniversary year in 2024. They wanted to mark that with a new badge. And they'd got it down to a round badge and what they called the gas lamp badge, which for those listening is basically a diamond shape. It was kind of like this. Villa were supposedly formed under a gas lamp in 1874, so that the shape was to kind of mimic that, if you can picture it. The elements on the badge, the wording, the lion, the European star, all that, they were all the same on both. It was basically just which shape do you prefer. Now, as a Villa fan, I know how many people love and associate Aston Villa with the round badge, which I've got the modern version. I don't have the original, but it was the badge that we had during the 70s and 80s that we won lots of things in. People growing up with that era love it for those reasons. I actually don't like that round badge, the original one. I don't think the colours are quite right. The lion is a bit weird, but again, that's what you grow up with, is kind of what you know. So I thought, when it comes down to a straight shootout of a round badge or otherwise, people will like the idea of going back to kind of the good old days, and they'll vote the round badge. So I was pretty convinced that is what would happen. The gas lamp badge was crap, though. So it was kind of like, here's a rubbish one, and here's one that we think you'll really like, and this is the one that we actually want you to vote for anyway. In truth, Villa wanted to go with a round badge for those reasons, but it just didn't look quite right. And I've got it here in front of me on the away shirt from that year. And if I just flash it up quickly and put it away again, I think Chelsea straight away. I know the colours aren't right, but that's a Chelsea badge. It's round with a kind of a disc, and there's a lion. And the lion is facing the opposite way to what we've always kind of known. And it was supposed to be that this is looking back in the past, whereas this line is facing the future. He's looking forwards. We flip the line around. It's like, yeah, but it just doesn't look right. So they got Aston Villa, they got 1874, they made it claret, which on, to be fair, on a white shirt, it's not bad, but on the home shirt, it had a blue outline, I think, a blue disc around the edge. Yeah, there it is. And it's okay. But this is the thing, right? And this is the conversations we had at the time. And apologies, I feel like I'm doing a lot of talking here. It's fine, but we're Aston Villa, right? We're better than fine. Like, it shouldn't just be okay. It's all right. Do you know what I mean? It should be the best badge in club football. You know, that's the kind of, everyone will feel that about their own badges. You want Newcastle's to be the best badge ever. Just okay is kind of insulting, really. So Villa went through a change in CEO around this time. This was Christian Perslow was this era, who was at Chelsea. Very similar badges, very similar designs, very similar. Like, we like a round badge. They're modern. Lots of clubs have them. Christian Perslow was given the boot or resigned or whatever the terminology was at the time. We brought in Chris Heck, who is now also leaving as well. I don't know how much Newcastle fans know about Chris Heck, but he came in, and this was going to be the badge on social media. They're going to change the stadium. This was going to be the badge going forward. Fans voted for it, right? That's fair. Chris Heck came in from America and didn't like this badge, hated it, and pulled the plug, effectively. Too late, though. We've made the shirts. So Villa changed their whole shtick and said, well, for one season only in our anniversary year, we're going to go back to this round badge to kind of, you know, replicate the history, but it won't be on social media. It won't be on the Premier League table when you go and look on skysports.com. It will be the Randy Lerner badge still. Match of the day highlights. It's different. It's what's on the shirt is not what is on everywhere else. And Liverpool is the only example of that. They've got the Liverbird, but they've got a kind of more official badge. And that's all right. But this was Villa having two very different looking badges in the same season. And it always led to people saying, like, how many badges have Villa got? Like, why is it different? I suppose that's where probably the debacle comes from. Fast forward into the start of this season, Chris Heck comes in and changes everything. And we end up with this badge, which is the one we have now. And this was a full thing of like, right, we're going to put it on the shirt. It's on the stadium now. It's on social media. Like, this is the badge that they're committing to for the foreseeable future. Now, I remember when this was first announced, and it was on like the trademark websites. I can't think what they're called off the top of my head. And it was like leaked early of like, Villa have registered this image. And we were all a bit like, oh, I don't know. You know, it's got this kind of like weird drop shadow around the lion. The Aston Villa, like the spacing underneath it, it felt quite unbalanced at first. Like, maybe the Villa should be at the top and the line a bit further down. And there's a lot of criticism of it. And to end my 10-minute spiel here, and maybe a message to your fans, and again, every club will feel differently. I don't care now about, oh, is it a bit unbalanced, or is that a bit drop shadow, a little bit weird? And I know what I said before about like just being okay shouldn't be good enough, but I think there's a lot of fuss and angst and being anxious about what's this going to look like and how is it going to represent our club, and am I going to like it? Do I want to buy it? Am I going to get it tattooed on my leg? You know, whatever. But over time, you play in it, you get used to it. You might win a trophy. Let's say you change your badge and you win another trophy and you win the league. That will be associated with that badge and that period. And I don't think by that point design is really the be all and end all. It's the memories associated with it. So yes, Villa went through a debacle of changing these badges over the course of a season and a half, and it all looked a bit of a mess. But ultimately, you come out of it the other side and go, yeah, right. Like, is the team good? Is the manager good? Like, that's the most important thing. So, yeah, that's Villa's badge.
Well, I mean, loads of questions to get into there. I mean, first off, you mentioned there on the circle one, which a lot of the criticism was that it looked too Chelsea, and you can totally see that. I think even though I thought Newcastle United would go to a circular badge, my one fear would it be too Chelsea? You know, holding up there on the white shirt as well. You mentioned the change in lion, and you kind of explained why it was facing a different direction. So for those listening, on the old badge, it was facing to the
it's facing to its, as you look at the shirt, it's facing left.
Yeah,
which is back to that now. So they flipped the line for the round badge, and now the Chris Heck badge, if you want to call it that, it's flipped back around again in the way that it's always faced.
And it's always been facing that way, hasn't it? Until obviously that kind of change. I mean, because with Newcastle United, you know, they've talked about history and heritage and not, getting away from that, bringing it into a new era, and it's going to be minimal changes. And Newcastle United fans are very keen on keeping their history and heritage when it comes to that badge. And was there a bit of an outrage when Villa fans saw that circular badge and were like, "We're there. Why is the lion facing the wrong way?"
I think there was a little bit of like, oh, it's all right actually that badge, but the lion's the wrong way around, and a bit of like confusion of why this was done. I was just trying to find the kind of marketing guff that described why they did that, and I can't quite find it. But I'm pretty sure it was kind of like, we want to look forward rather than look back, and that's what the lion is now doing. He's facing the right way. We're all in this together, all that kind of crap. I think quite a lot of fans, like I said, 77% voted for the round badge out of the two, the round and the gas lamp. But I kind of put some of that down to, yeah, but it was better of the two. It's not the fact that we liked the shape; it just was better than the other one. I seem to remember quite a lot of Villa fans liking it, and I mean, I didn't really like it, but that's me. That's one person, right? I think the vast majority did. I think the kind of mess that came around Villa was that, well, hold on, it's not going to be everywhere. It's only going to be on the shirt. So that makes no sense. If you're going to do it, you got to commit to it and do it properly. You don't do one badge for the shirt and one badge for the club shop and the stadium and social media. It's all should all be the same. So I actually think some of the frustration came from the decision to change it. I think if we'd have kept with it and committed to it, again, I think 2 years on, you just go, yeah, well, we're used to it now. Like, this is just the way the lion face is. Most clubs do have a round badge these days, so we're just one of them. Like, you kind of just get used to it. So I don't think fans were against the badge. I think they were against all the fuss that came with it.
Well, it's interesting you mentioned kind of the fallout from going from the circular badge to the one you guys have got now. Because essentially, I mean, they changed it because they didn't sell enough kit and memorabilia. That's how I read the statement. The results of which currently adorn the 2023-24 playing and training kits. The club has been assessing the impact of the change from local, global, and commercial perspectives, and have concluded that the current crest has not had the impact which it had been hoped when it was introduced. So, essentially they didn't sell enough with the new badge on, which I guess is another sign of where modern day football is. And this is a lot of Newcastle United fans have also kind of turned their nose up at the suggestion that actually, we maybe have to lose a badge we love to try and get ahead when it comes to marketing or it comes to selling a few more kits or memorabilia. I'm in the seat of, well, yeah, it's sad, but that's just modern day football.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, I think part of Villa's explanation of it not being as impactful as possible, and I was like, cover up as in a conspiracy, but like, we're changing it anyway, so we've got to give you some kind of reason, and that's one of them. I've only got the away shirt here, but the home one you flashed up on screen a few times. If you compare that to this year's home one, it's not about the badge. It's the last year of a crap Castor kit versus Adidas. If you walk around Villa Park now, and it's only last season's shirt, the round badge, but you'll see a hell of a lot more of this year's one because it's just a better shirt. If this year's Adidas shirt had last year's badge on it, it would have sold better because the kit is better. So I don't really buy too much that it wasn't sold well because the badge wasn't very good. It's because the kit wasn't very good. They wanted to change it. Christian Perslow left. Chris Heck came in. That was the old guy's badge. Like, I don't want to be a part of that. Like, I want my vision to be going forward. And now he's no longer here anyway. So, but their wording was, we kind of tried this out for a year, but we're going to come back with a permanent new look crest for the 150th year this season. And then we throw in the black anniversary kit we had in the FA Cup as well. And that's another badge, but that really was just a one-off. But there's been a lot of kind of badges associated or crests associated with Villa, and kind of feels like we're in a little bit of an identity crisis. We don't really know what we are, what we want to be, and that is probably kind of lessons for Newcastle or other clubs. If you're going to make these changes, consult the fans, find something that most agree on, and if you're going to do it, stick to it. You can't go back a year later and say, well, actually, let's just try this or just try that.
Doing the research for this episode, ironically enough, when the consultation period for Villa was first started to change from the badge that had since 2016 to the circular badge, it was actually praised. Well done. You're running this survey, you're listening to fans. out came the circle one. And yes, some people might say, well, actually, fans were kind of led down a certain path that the club wanted to go to. Fair enough, but it was praised by quite a few supporters groups and what have you. It was actually, again, reading certain articles and watching certain things, it was the change to the current day Villa badge, which got a lot of criticism because it seemed to just come out of nowhere. And some fans have claimed they weren't consulted. Now Villa would argue differently, but some fans say there was a meeting, I think in December 2023, and it was just announced. This is the badge. This is going to happen. This is the change, and there was no consultation. And it's really important, is it, when we get to these changes, that fans are consulted, because it is something so huge. It does follow you around, whether it be for 4 or 5 years or whether it be for 37. It is a massive part of your everyday life, supporting your club.
Yeah, absolutely. If I just go back to these two badges, I've tried to put them side by side as best I can. The 2023 round badge and the one that preceded it, the learner badge, if you like. Villa's reasoning for why to move away from that badge from 2006 was the learnings from the survey were that the current crest does not represent Villa well. Okay, there's no emotional attachment from the supporters to the crest. I think a lot of people associate that badge with relegation. Ultimately, it's the first time we're relegated from the Premier League. It's learner's badge. He's no longer the owner. He changed it. We've been relegated since kind of fresh start. Again, I kind of get that as well. They said that the lion, Aston Villa and claret and blue should be fundamental to the crest. Now, if you can flash up for a second that image of John McGinn that you've posted a few times of the home version, it's got Aston Villa, it's got a lion, and all of a sudden the club, the crest is claret and blue. And if you come back to us, and I'd show the one before, not much claret on there. And the blue is not this kind of blue that I think of with Villa. It's a little bit dark. And this is one kit I'm holding, but it's very pale looking. It isn't claret and blue. It's AVFC rather than Aston Villa. There's no year of formation. So I can see the problems that came with this badge upon a survey process. So I think if this video ended with, and Villa changed to a round badge and everyone was happy ever after, good process, guys. Like VAR, well done, chaps. We've done it. Like, we've consulted the fans, we found these findings, and we fixed those. And by and large, most fans are happy with it. It was changing it around again that kind of led to, what was the point of all that consultation then? You asked us what we wanted, and then 12 months later, you're ripping it up and giving us this one instead, which is, trying to be a more modern version of this, I suppose. We've got the Aston Villa again, but we've still gone back to this kind of pale blue and yellow version rather than a kind of claret and blue heavy. However, you're right. It was the new guys kind of thing, wasn't it? The old guy had done this one. I'm here now. We're going to change it. But this doesn't line up with the survey results. This isn't what people asked for. So to just kind of say, right, well, that didn't work very well last year and we didn't sell many kits. So here's kind of version 2. We're going to just give you this one and deal with it. That kind of undermined all of the process that came before, because we were kind of had our hand held all the way through the first change. And then the second change was just a bit like, well, this is what it is, and we're just doing it. Kind of crack on, everybody. And to some fans, I actually do think there is a little bit of understanding with that, because it is a bit like, well, we can't all have a say. Somebody's got to make some decisions at some point, and if we all try and have an input here, we're just going to end up with too many things going on. So somebody's come in and made a strong decision that the previous one, they didn't like it, that they're not going to commit the money to change and everything for that, but they are going to commit the money to this one because they feel this one's better. And as I said earlier, you do just kind of grow to accept it and think, okay, fair enough, because it is similar to ones that we've had before. However, I do think on a Newcastle podcast, this is a different scenario with what you're going through. The Villa have had, I don't know, what is it, 7 badges since the turn of the millennium or something like that, off the top of my head. The stripy one, the learner one, prepared, not prepared, the round badge, and then the current one. It's quite a lot of change in the course of 25 years. Newcastle haven't had a change for a much longer time, and you've just won a trophy with that badge. So I can understand why there's probably more worry this time. However, you can come out of it the other side and go, actually, the new one's pretty good, and you'll get used to it. If that's the case.
That does happen. And just on the accusation from some Villa fans that they weren't consulted about the current day badge, Villa said in a statement to the New York Times that the video that was shown at this meeting outlined the results of a fan survey and introduced the new crest. Discussions were held around the consultative process, and the club confirmed that the FA had been consulted throughout. And Newcastle United are going through a similar process. Obviously, we had that workshop meeting. There'll be a second consultation survey, we think, hopefully with a few more options to pick from, especially to outvote on the one that I showed originally. And I know you said earlier, Dan, that you're at the point where you just don't care. But to go from the badge that, that the shield kind of design, which had been in place since 1990, all the way up to 2023, to go from that to a circular badge, was that a difficult thing, or were you just like, it doesn't define?
Again, I can only speak for myself, right? And I wasn't that bothered. I understood why we've gone back to the round badge. If you compare the badge, the round one I've showed you a few times versus the one that we won the European Cup in, it's a modernised version of that. They've made the colours better and they flipped the line around. Like, most people think that's like the perfect Villa badge, maybe because they associate it with success or their childhood or whatever. I didn't think that was the perfect badge. If you look at the colours, I'm looking at a tab now that you can't see, but it's way different to everything else. It isn't really claret and blue. It's more like brown. It's more like brown and teal, or orange and teal. It doesn't look quite right. The lion isn't as defined. It's a bit of a mess compared to what we have now that's more defined. So everyone has their own opinions on different things. I actually do like a shield. I've never been a huge fan of round badges. I've always said that on our podcast. So when we changed to one, I stood by my guns and said, well, I don't really like round badges anyway. They're everywhere, like Brentford, Man City, there's cases of it everywhere. And it just feels a little bit of a kind of modern football thing, kind of soulless bowl stadium plus round badge equals 2025 football club. And that's not really how it should be. Can I just ask you a little bit, and obviously you probably spoke about this anyway because it's your podcast and it's your, all Newcastle fans. What do you want from your badge? Is it just like a modernised version of what you got, or are you willing to change it? Because I'm a total nobody here, but magpies, right? Where are they? Why is it seahorses? Why is there a little lion? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, I've got no affinity to Newcastle's badge at all. I think it's fine. It's all right. But if I had everything I know about your club, the Magpies, black and white, whatever, I wouldn't design your current badge. I'd go for something totally different. There'd be a magpie on there.
Yeah, so me personally, I'm going to bring up this graphic here.
Okay, here we go.
And when I say the badge from 1976 to 1983, Newcastle United fans will know exactly what I'm talking about. It's on the back of some of the actual current day strips as well. And that's the badge I would have gone for. Newcastle United Football Club around the outside with a magpie on top of the castle keep, which is the castle right in the centre of Newcastle, and then the river running through it. But it appears the club are going to stay away from circular design, so you can rule that one out. I mean, the current day badge, I absolutely love it. I think it's very dominating. I think it's a really standout badge. You see that. I think you know who you're playing or you know who you're talking about. But I can understand, simply because of the questions you've just asked to someone outside of Newcastle, when you hear they're nicknamed the Magpies, and the Magpies nowhere to be seen on that badge, it does maybe create a little bit of an identity crisis. But the Seahorses are there because of the kind of a nod to what's gone on beforehand, kind of the industry of the city and I suppose the region on a wider part. The lion, I'll be honest, I'm not too sure. It's standing on top of a castle. So I think it's a little bit of a nod to actually the to the city crest, which you can see that was used between 69 and 76. So that's the arms of coats, the coat of arms, sorry, for the city. So that's probably where that comes from. And actually, the modern day badge is kind of based on that coat of arms. It's it's a very similar design. So that's where all those come from. Admittedly, it is omitting a magpie, which will be absolutely key. I imagine will probably feature somewhere, you would think, in whatever design they come up with. But for me, I'm not too fussed. I think it'd be sad to say goodbye, but I trust those making these decisions to get it right. They can see things we can't in terms of revenue streams and marketing ideas and pitches. And if they're maybe being told that the badge is hard to replicate, it's too intricate, then, you have to trust them because they can see the end goal. I think fans need to see evidence of what
Mm.
that goal would look like if indeed the badge is changed. But I tell you what, Dan, it's going to be so interesting to see what they come up with because they've said minimal, they've said refine and revive, and now they've said not circular. So really, how much
Not many
change is
options
going to
left
come
there, is there?
about?
Yeah.
What are they
Do,
actually going to do?
do you
If it's
reckon it would?
minimal,
Do you reckon it could be NUFC rather than Newcastle United, or is that a no go?
I would hope not, but I suppose nothing's off the table. But I would hope not. Given it's not going to be circular, it's really difficult to come up with something
If you
fresh and
flash those
updated.
images up, if you flash those images up again, I'm not going to stick up for the higher ups at Newcastle here for. Well, actually, yeah, I agree. It should be changed, but there's so much detail on that current badge, so many lines and little kind of flares of black around the edges. Like how small that is on the screen for those watching. I don't know how many people would know that was even a lion if you showed that to a 10-year-old who knows enough about the world to know things, but is that clearly a lion? Like Villa's one, it's a lion, right? It's yellow, it's big. There's a lot of black on that lion's face because it's so small and there's so much detail on it. I'm going to have a completely rogue prediction as an outsider. That central bit there with the black and white stripes and the gold, that shield, I think your badge might be that shape.
Yeah, look, I think again, having not been in the consultation meeting, but talking to people who were there, there was a lot of insight given into why they're looking to update the badge, and it was largely based on kind of I guess, the quality of this badge, and when it was actually first drawn, the lion was something that was brought up. Looks a little bit squashed. You can't really see it's a
Mm.
lion. There's a lot of black there. I think there was something about the seahorse has not really been in line or central, and when you get closer, it doesn't look quite right. But yeah, I could see something potentially being built around the shield there, the crest, in terms of the black and white. But then it's a question of, does something flank it? Where do the seahorses come in? Because I think a lot of people would like to see the seahorses remain.
Right.
Um,
Okay.
then is there room for a magpie? It's going to be so interesting. It's not a job that I envy at all,
No.
because they've got to get this right, and it's not easy at all. As we've seen with Villa, so, you've got to make sure you get it right, not just in terms of pleasing the fans, but also the marketing, the kit, the memorabilia. Because what we don't want is to be in the same shoes Villa were, where after 8 or 9 months you go, nah, this isn't working. And as much as that might have been mainly because of a new guy coming in, it was also, as Villa pointed to, or at least they said it was, down to it, not really shifting as much as they wanted. And yes, we all know about Castor because we can share that journey with you as well, Dan. But we have to make sure that whatever badge is updated or whatever badge is designed, that it works for every single element of this football club.
Yeah.
Because goodness me, I don't want to be sitting here in a year's time or a year after it's been announced what the new badge is going to be, and we're talking about another badge, because I think
Yeah.
that's a bit of an embarrassment if that were to be the case.
Or even going back to what you've already supposedly written off. If all the detail about the current badge is it's not fit for purpose and doesn't replicate well on smaller devices or in material or whatever, if the new badges are completely, nobody likes it, you then can't go back to the one that you've written off. So it's a very kind of difficult, delicate process. And when you say, you've got to kind of please supporters, but also the marketing bods and that kind of things, the cynical side of me says that the marketing side is probably more important in the current climate. All about digital brand. What's it going to look like on the new FIFA game, or what? You know what I mean? Like all those things are important to growing the identity of the club, and less is the concern of the fans as years go by. So I hope for your sake and everybody listening that what comes out, everyone goes, actually, you know what? That's really nice. That I'm a little bit unsure. It's going to grow on me, but in comparison to the old one, I actually really, really like it. And as I said before, if the new badge comes with a period of success for Newcastle, you won't hear anyone grumbling about it.
Yeah, look, it's not a bad way to go out, is it? The current day badge, having won
Yeah,
a cup after 70 years domestically, and maybe even finishing second in the Premier League, although we'll just take Champions League at this stage. But that's not a bad way to go
so would
out. And
I.
who knows what next season holds? You know what I mean? So it's a good way to say goodbye, I guess. I just want to ask you to finish off 2 questions. And before I do that, I'm just going to quickly read through some replies I had on social media because I asked fans about whether they were happy that the club appear to have stayed away from a circular design. Jack says not really bothered. I trust the club. Quite like the circular ones, though, to be honest. John says, with all that's going on at Newcastle, the badge is the least of my concerns. William says, remove a few lines from the current one for the shirt and all the problems are solved. Joe says, yes, next step should be to vote to what's in it. Magpies, shoe horses, castle, etc. Then the colour scheme. This needs to be designed by the fans so no one can complain long term. I mean, that's always going to happen. Someone's going to.
I think that is crucial, though, having that opportunity to have your say as one individual. Should it be NUFC? Should it be Newcastle? Should that, I'm looking at your top now specifically, the ribbon underneath, should that be blue or should it be black? Like having all these choices, I think that's really useful, and whether the club take it on board. And again, it's hard to please everybody, but breaking down the individual elements, so like, should this be on there? Should this not be on there? Is really helpful, I think.
Did you feel like you were being listened to when you took that original survey, or did the fan base feel like they were being listened to?
I think so, yeah. I think, and like I said, there was plenty of option in there. It was quite detailed. I wish it was still available, and I could kind of talk through some of the options that we had, because obviously it's a few years ago now. But there was definitely like, should the European Cup star be on there at all? Should it be inside the badge or like on top? What's the wording of the club? The date of the formation? All these different options were there, and I think if you're just presented with, right, we have decided amongst us that it's going to be one of these three, you go away and vote for them, you already feel a little bit like, well, I actually wouldn't have had any of those. Like, you've gone for NUFC. I wanted Newcastle United. I'm already like, you've already got my back up a little bit by not giving me the chance to have my specifications ruled out. So, yeah, I definitely felt kind of listened to. Like I said, up until changing it for this season, if they'd have stuck with the round badge, I think all of the process the way through that was pretty good. Like Villa followed everything they were supposed to, and ultimately, if 70% of fans have voted for it, you can't really argue with that.
I mean, were you miffed then when the badge was suddenly discarded and they went reverted to the one they've got now, or they redesigned to the one they've got now? And because we mentioned, haven't we, 77% of people wanted the circular one, and I've read out a statement there, or lines from that New York Times story about fans being unhappy that their thoughts were just disregarded with the current design. I mean, how did you feel?
Yeah, I think all of that is fair. The actual round badge itself I wasn't that bothered about. I was more so of and again, I shouldn't really be bothered about this, but like, what are other fans going to think about? Look at Villa, keep changing their badge. Like, I want us to be run properly and make good decisions, and here we are kind of floundering around over a badge, and we're changing it. No, we aren't changing it. We're going to change back. It just looks small time, and I want Villa to be better than that, obviously. When the new badge came out, or just before it came out, I had issues about the spacing and should this be rearranged and all this. But just before that, it was kind of like, well, if we're not going to be consulted upon it, you just think the worst. Like, what are they going to come up with? Is this guy who's only ever worked in American football going to come up with a lion with his jaws out and his claws? And it kind of feel a little bit, this feels a little bit like an NFL team rather than a Premier League football team. And you had those concerns of, well, if they can't decide what they're going to do, what does that mean for the rest of us? But like I say, ultimately, I think you just get used to it. I really don't want to boil it down to just like, get over it, guys, but you kind of do.
Yeah. And the final comment I'm going to read out here is that from Blousy. He says the draft is awful. So that's the one I put on the screen earlier in the episode. I mean, for those listening, I'm just going to quickly talk you through it if you haven't seen it. It's very similar to what we've got at the moment. I mean, the version that's been put out is grey, but it's got a shield in the middle, black and white. 2 seahorses either side, which are a bit more chunky. It's got the castle. It's got a teddy bear. Sorry, it's got a lion. Do you know what? Because I watched someone else have a go at describing what they said, and he described it as a teddy bear, and with a flag holding the flag on top, and then the banner underneath Newcastle United. And I have to say that the banner underneath on this, shall we call it a prototype, looks even more confusion and to draw and more intricate than the current day one. So I mean, I'm not a fan of it, and I don't think, especially after the feedback, that the club will go down this route. But yes, not many people are a fan of that at all. And just to finish off that comment. Feels like they're worried about upsetting the fan base by moving too far from the existing crest. If they're going to change it, then they should commit to a redesign, not a watered down version of the existing one with fewer elements, which I can totally see the point he's making there.
Yeah, I can as well, because I assume there'll be an element of the Newcastle fan base that already think what you have is perfect. So the club simplifying it or modernising it is already making it worse, and it will never compare to the original. So doing something completely different, like a shield-shaped crest with a black and white magpie and NUFC, whilst that might sound absolutely horrific, at least it's different, and you're not always comparing it to what was there before.
Yeah, no, 100%.
Well, you would compare it, but you know what I mean? You're looking at, is that a poor imitation of what we had before? Well, no, because it's totally different at least.
Yeah, 100%. A total fresh start kind of removes that temptation to look back and think, oh, that's what we did have. If it's, especially because if you're looking at something that's similar but not as good, that's when you start reflecting and thinking, well, we had something so perfect. Why did we change it? But like I say, not a job I envy having at this moment in time. Just to finish off then, Dan, I just want you to tell me, I'm not going to give you a number on it. You can give me as many lessons as you want that Newcastle United should take away from Villa's debacle of the last few years.
Once you've changed it, stick with it. Whoever designs the new one, or whoever your CEO or chief commercial officer is at the moment that oversees this badge, if they leave, still stick with it. Don't just let the new guy come in and change everything. Just listen to the fans is the most thing. Give them options, give them choice, take on their feedback. I wouldn't be, and again, I'm going conspiracy theory here. I wouldn't be surprised if the leaked one you've spoken about there was leaked on purpose to gauge some kind of reception to it before it goes any further. If I was a club, I'd do more of that. Like, before we waste a load of time doing a load of marketing guff, let's just show fans what it is and leak it ourselves and get it out there and just see what the reaction is. Because if that one there, everyone loved it, you kind of proceed, don't you? Like, the club can crack on and modernise it, and there you go. They already know they're onto a winner. So, yeah, I think take fans' considerations into account, absolutely. But also there is, and I hate to say it, the way that modern football is, there has to be some kind of consideration to the marketing, what it's going to look like across various video games on different broadcasters across the world, when it's small on somebody's phone. All these things, they just are important these days. So, yeah, don't do what Villa did in some ways, but when you have at least found something that fans are pretty okay with, then commit to it. Because like I say, the round badge, they said straight away, it won't be on social media. We're not going to change the learner badge off the stadium. It's all just it will only be on the kit. Whereas this year, now we've changed it. They have changed the stadium. The club shop is all new. The branding online, social media, the Premier League website, it's all the new badge, and it kind of feels like, okay, well, this all kind of comes together. I just hope I've come across okay on this podcast. I feel like I've done a lot of talking, and I said I didn't want to tell Newcastle fans how to feel. It's only how I feel as a Villa fan. And if other Villa fans have somehow stumbled upon this, you may feel differently to I do as well. And this is kind of the whole point. We all see these things as completely subjective, and it's difficult to please everybody.
No, you come across really well. It's just really interesting getting insight into someone who's been through that. I mean, just finally, you mentioned there the fact that it wasn't changed on the stadium. I think even the media were told, don't use it. Was that always the plan, do you think? Or
no. If Christian Perslow had stayed, they'd have committed to it. I'm pretty convinced of that. He was happy with the badge. It was redesigned. As I said before, he worked at Chelsea. Villa's badge all of a sudden looked like Chelsea. Were designed by the same agency, I think. I don't know whether that's completely true or not, but again, I wouldn't be surprised. I think if he'd have stayed, they would have changed it. But it's very expensive to change the badges on the stadium itself and all those kind of things. So they got rid of Perslow, got the new guy in, Chris Heck, and he said, actually, no, before we go and spend a fortune on changing all that stuff, I don't like that. I don't think that represents Aston Villa. And I mean, what does he know, do you know? But now they have committed to this badge and changed everything. And like I said, you do at least feel like, okay, well, there's some joined up thinking going on there at the very least.
Yeah, well, it's going to be interesting. Thanks, Dan, for sparing the time to talk to us about Villa's debacle when it comes to badge changes, crest changes, and Newcastle United on a similar journey themselves, hopefully which will yield a bit more of a successful change, especially one
Yeah.
that doesn't result in change again after 12 months. Thank you to you guys watching and listening. A pleasure as always. Do it thumbs up, do it subscribe, do leave us a rating and review, and I'll see you guys very soon.